Good morning. I'm District 1 Supervisor and Board Vice Chair Greg Cox, and I'd like to welcome you all here for the 2019 State of the County Address presented by our Chairwoman, Dianne Jacob. You may have noticed from last year that we've had a few changes in the board. It looks a little different up here, and that's actually a good thing for me because I just got bumped up in seniority. Now I get the first dibs on any leftover bagels in the break room. So with that, let me introduce our new and returning board members. Our Chairwoman, District 2 Supervisor Dianne Jacob. District 3 Supervisor Kristen Gaspar. Representing District 4, Supervisor Nathan Fletcher. And our District 5 Supervisor Jim Desmond. Also with us today, representing Sheriff Bill Gore, we have Assistant Sheriff Larry Nesbitt. Our District Attorney, Summer Steffen. Our Treasurer Tax Collector, Dan McAllister. Our Assessor Recorder Clerk, Ernie Dronenberg. And our outstanding Chief Administrative Officer, Helen Robbins-Meyer. Now, as many of you know, this is not Dianne's first rodeo. This is, in fact, her 7th time serving as board chair and 7th and final State of the County address, she hopes. She has held elected office longer than anyone in our county government's history, and I like to remind her that she is the longest serving member of the board. She first joined the board in 1993, and if you want to know what the county looked like back then just check it out in her office because she still has the same furniture. But hey, that's good. Over time, Dianne's fiscal discipline has helped the county thrive and has protected our taxpayers' dollars. For example, today, Dianne said, why pay for more lighting in these board chambers when we can simply open up the drapes and let the sun shine in? And so that's a part of what Dianne does, shedding more light on what we do. That's always a good thing. Dianne, it's been my great honor to work with you alongside you for so many years now to improve the quality of life for all San Diegans, and you certainly are an inspiration to all of us. Before we get too far into this morning's program, let me make sure you've turned off or muted any electronic devices. Now, Nathan, I know that's going to be hard for you because you have a tendency to always get on Twitter, but you're going to have to restrain doing that for a while. And you too, Kristen. Now, please rise for the invocation and remain standing for our Pledge of Allegiance and our national anthem. Leading us in the invocation this morning is Pastor Roland Slade from the Meridian Baptist Church in El Cajon.
Let's pray together. Mighty God, we come this morning with sincere hearts. We come seeking wisdom and understanding to govern wisely. We come seeking clarity and simplicity as we communicate with each other. We come seeking vision and insight that would help us to recognize the highest public good. We come seeking the safety and security of all citizens of this great county. We come seeking to do and to be the very best people that we can be. We come seeking the peace and harmony that will bind us together as a community. And we come thankful for the opportunity to come before you this morning on this glorious San Diego day. And it's in your name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor. Leading us in the pledge is Tom Beltz, who serves with the Sheriff's Retired Senior Volunteer Patrol out of the Rancho San Diego Sheriff's Station.
Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Here to sing the national anthem is Marissa Grace, a La Mesa resident and a sophomore at Our Lady of Peace High School in San Diego. She is also the niece of Dianne's administrative assistant, Mary Lou Glassman.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we held at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Please be seated. Thank you, Tom and Marissa, for your involvement in this morning's presentation. Today, we're honored to be joined by many dignitaries. We're going to ask them, as I call their names, to please stand, and we would ask that the audience hold your applause until we get done with all of the introductions. From the city of Carlsbad, we have Councilmember Priya Bhat Patel. From the city of Coronado, we have Councilmember Mike Donovan and Councilmember Bill Sankey. From the city of Escondido, we have Councilmember Olga Diaz. From the city of Poway, we have Mayor Steve Voss, Councilmember Kaylin Frank, and Councilmember Barry Leonard. From the city of Chula Vista, we have Mayor Mary Casillas Salas, Councilmember Jill Galvez, and Councilmember John McCann. From the city of Encinitas, we have Mayor Catherine Blackspear and Councilmember Joe Mosca. From the city of San Diego, we're honored to have Mayor Kevin Faulconer. From the city of Santee, we have Mayor John Minto, Councilmember Ron Hall, Councilmember John Garlow, and Councilmember Laura Koval. And from the city of Vista, we have Deputy Mayor John Franklin, Councilmember Corina Contreras, Councilmember Joe Green, and Councilmember Amanda Rigby. From our military installations, we're honored to have with us from the Marine Corps Air Station Miramar, Colonel Charles Dockery, the commanding officer, and Captain Matthew Gregory, the Director of Office of Communications. And from Naval Base Coronado, we have Commander Kimberly Ernst, who is representing Captain Timothy Slentz, the commanding officer. Please give them all a round of applause. And also a thank you to those representing our school districts, fire districts, water districts, and other agencies. I'd like to ask them to please stand at this time and also accept this round of applause. Now it's my honor to introduce my colleague and our 2019 Chairwoman of the San Diego County Board of Supervisors, Supervisor Chairman Dianne Jacob.
Thank you, Greg. Good morning, everyone, and welcome. I want to thank my colleagues and thank all of you for coming this morning. I want to acknowledge the doctors that are here, and there are doctors in the house this morning. Dr. Michael Plopper, Dr. Michael Seiss, Dr. Gerald Chun, and Dr. Michael Lobatz. And thank you particularly for joining us this morning. Well, usually when we start these State of the County speeches, we start them by patting ourselves on the back. But today is going to be different. I am not going to talk about our AAA credit rating. But instead, I'm going to focus this morning on the big issues right in front of us: housing and homelessness, wildfire protection, mental health, substance abuse, energy, and the challenges facing our seniors. This is a new era at the county. We've got fresh voices, fresh perspectives, and for the first time in a generation, the new faces on the board outnumber the old. And yeah, Greg, you always remind everybody that I may be the oldest member of this board, but I'm not even close to slowing down. And if you don't believe me, just ask my doctor, Dr. Carol Salem. Well, you're looking at a board of supervisors today that is rebooted and refreshed. And this opens the window to the new and novel, to bold ideas and fresh opportunities. Well, we're going to disagree at times. That's natural. But we're already finding some common ground. Unlike Washington, D.C., all that fire and fury and finger pointing and all that ugly talk, all those ugly tweets, and all that talk last night isn't going to change anything. And I'm not going on for an hour and a half this morning. Ronald Reagan reminded us that character counts. And yes, it does. This spot right here, 1600 Pacific Highway, is a long way from 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Here, it's not about red versus blue. It's about nuts and bolts governing, and here we can turn up our civic sleeves and actually do our jobs and put people before politics. Well, it was back in the 1990s, the county was a fiscal train wreck. It was a series of disastrous moves by the board back then that forced the county into a partial shutdown. Workers were asked to take time off without pay. But it took a new crop of supervisors and managers to turn things around, and we did. And today, the state of the county is much better because we're no longer debating where to cut. We're looking at where to spend. And we are. More on services, more on facilities, more on critical programs. Our hard-working employees put it all into action. They are truly the heart and soul of this $6.3 billion a year operation. So on behalf of this board, I want to take a special moment to thank the 17,000 plus county employees for all that you do. Well, this is no time to play small ball. This board needs to aim for the fences and address the region's biggest challenges. And right now, 2 of them are on a collision course. We need affordable housing, and we need to better protect the region from our greatest natural threat, wildfire. But how do we do? How do we allow more housing in the unincorporated area while also doing all we can to protect people and property? How do we safeguard existing homes? And by the way, there are nearly 60,000 houses in the unincorporated area that sit on land considered to be at high risk or at very high risk of wildfire. Now, we're facing a critical conflict today between shelter and safety and we must find some balance in this battle. We didn't just wake up to these problems. The county has already ramped up our efforts to encourage the construction of housing for low and moderate income residents. It was 2 years ago that we created a $25 million trust fund to help finance homes for the homeless and those close to becoming homeless, including seniors and our veterans. This board has never tried something like this before, and it's paying off. So far, we've funded several projects with a total of 453 homes. Doesn't seem like a lot, but it's a start. And 2 of the projects have already broken ground. And hundreds of more homes are on the way due to our commitment to using surplus county property for affordable housing. Now, we're also making it easier to build secondary homes in the unincorporated area. Just last month, we voted to waive county permit and development fees for those wanting to build a second unit on lots with existing homes. This cost-cutting measure reduces the price of each dwelling by about $15,000. This is a pretty good incentive to get shovels in the ground, and we created a hotline and a website for those wanting more information. We've received a lot of calls, a lot of interest in this. Think about this for a minute. We have 172,000 homes on existing lots in the unincorporated area today. That is a lot of untapped potential. You do the math. Meanwhile, we're working overtime to address the year-round threat of wildfire. Since the Cedar Fire in 2003, the county has spent more than $500 million to improve rural fire and emergency medical services. We're talking about new engines, new stations, new technology, and a bigger fleet of aircraft. We're talking about a more unified and better trained firefighting force led by the County Fire Authority and CAL FIRE. Because we know how bad it can get, we have brought more muscle to this fight. And since 2003, local wildfires, get this, have claimed 25 lives and caused damage in the millions, in the billions. Taxpayers alone have spent over $100 million just fighting these fires, and this is just in San Diego County. If you look at the insurance claims from the recent California fires, they've topped $11.4 billion, and that number is expected to skyrocket even higher than that. Hope for the best, prepare for the worst, and allow more housing. That is the challenge. So today I'm announcing several initiatives to better balance our need for affordable housing and our duty to keep the region safe. That's a tough one. First, on the fire front. Next month, Supervisor Desmond and I will bring to this board several proposals to beef up fire protection. We want to offer grants or other incentives to encourage existing homeowners in the high-risk areas to install safer walls, vents, and other fire-resistant materials. We must step up our defensible space inspections, expand wood chipping programs, and strengthen our network of fire-safe councils. We must reduce hazardous brush by teaming up with local, state, and federal agencies on a joint plan for controlled burns and fuel breaks. And we must push state and federal leaders to eliminate the onerous environmental reviews required to reduce brush and other fuels. Long overdue. And we must double down on the use of technology and mapping to protect high-risk communities. In addition, the county is working with San Diego Fire Rescue Department and other agencies to place dispatchers under one roof. This would not only save money, but it will improve response times, and that means saving lives. All these measures will make existing homes safer and help us prepare for new homes and communities. But we can't stop there. Local and state officials are moving to update fire code standards for new construction. We will ask that a tougher set of criteria be included in the code for development in these high-risk parts of the unincorporated area. The fact is, like it or not, San Diego County remains one bad Santa Ana wind away from a disaster. New homes and communities must be built to give people and property the greatest chance of survival. Now, when it comes to creating affordable housing, let's re-up the county's $25 million housing trust fund. Supervisor Cox has agreed to join me in asking the board to add another $25 million to this public-private partnership. We'll bring this proposal to the board this spring. This fund will allow us to make targeted investments to create permanent, affordable homes. And doubling the size of the fund could give us 1,000 more homes across this region. Well, I mentioned earlier that we are now waiving fees to encourage the construction of accessory units next to existing homes. Now, many of you may know the term YIMBY, yes, in my backyard. Well, here we are actually talking about backyards. A lot of people call them granny flats, but they're much more than that. They could also shelter seniors, veterans, the homeless, and others who are in need. So why not look at creating additional financial incentives for these secondary homes to help house our most vulnerable? Well, stay tuned on that one. More to come. Now, here's something else that we can do. We can offer free, pre-approved, permit-ready building plans to those wanting to add a secondary home. Encinitas is already doing this, and it's saving, I understand, homeowners up to $18,000 a unit. That's a big deal. Now, think about it. We have 172,000 homes on existing lots in our unincorporated area. 172,000. If only 10% of them added a second dwelling unit, that would go a long, long way toward filling our affordable housing gap. Well, we want affordable housing, we need affordable housing, and we are wired for it here at the county. But you can clap if you want to. I mean, Nathan, you're about ready to. It's okay. It's okay. So opening the door to more housing also helps address homelessness and the long-term needs of those dealing with mental illness and addiction. Get this, we spend $650 million a year on behavioral health services. $650 million. That's a staggering number. That's 10% of our budget. But it doesn't mean that we're doing enough or that we're doing it right. Here's an example. And this is a true story about a middle-aged man from San Diego. He wants to remain private, so for today I'm going to call him Ryan. And we are so, so lucky Ryan is still with us. And you will know that after I tell you his story. He is a counselor now at a local recovery program after spending more than 2 decades battling mental illness and substance abuse. It started at the age of 12 when he was first sexually abused by his stepfather. And to deal with the trauma, he turned to alcohol, then marijuana, then heroin. In his teen years, he bounced from clinics to emergency rooms, to jails, to prisons. You see, Ryan had no family, and he had no friends to lean on. And he suffered from untreated depression and PTSD. By the age of 22, Ryan was homeless, and he tried killing himself. And for at least another decade, he fought to end his pain and find stability. Ryan cycled through more clinics and courtrooms and 2 more suicide attempts. But what Ryan desperately needed was a long-term care plan to address his chronic illnesses. But instead, what he got was short-term care and time behind bars. It wasn't until Ryan was in his 30s that he was provided comprehensive treatment services, housing, and job training. Today, Ryan is in recovery. He is a survivor, but it took more than 20 years to connect him with the right kind of help. And as long as our behavioral health services at the county are fractured, people like Ryan will fall through the cracks. I want to take a moment to commend Supervisor Gaspar for taking on this tough issue last year as board chair. At the time, she brought together public health and safety experts, and she challenged us to come up with bold and sustainable solutions. For example, we now have nearly 1,200 short and long-term beds for those in crisis. But I have to tell you, that just adding more beds is not the solution. We need to focus on the individual, not on programs, and come up with a coordinated system of care. And to do this, we need to sit down with hospitals, schools, businesses, nonprofits, law enforcement, and others, and put together a plan. A plan so that people like Ryan aren't stuck in a revolving door of ERs and jail cells. The Sheriff's Department says there are at least 100 people with behavioral health problems who wind up in jail, an average of more than 14 times a year. That's nearly 1,500 arrests. And these people don't belong behind bars. These people need treatment. Our brilliant district attorney, Summer Stephan, and our Sheriff Bill Gore, both have some great ideas on how to address these challenges. Summer and Bill, you both have agreed to join me, and I appreciate it, in asking the board soon to bolster the county's psychiatric emergency response teams, better known as Pert. Now, Pert puts mental health clinicians in the field with uniformed law enforcement, and they respond to medical health emergencies. Interestingly enough, I helped create the program in 1996. When we started it, we only had a handful of teams covering the entire county. Well, today we have funding for 70 Pert teams, but we need to do more. And here's what the district attorney and the sheriff and I will be asking the board to consider. It's a follow-up component to Pert, where clinicians would stay in touch with Pert patients to reduce the repeat incidents. That is very key to success, and for people like Ryan. But we're also going to look at establishing Pert in our schools, where we're seeing a growing number of behavioral health problems, unfortunately. But if we can get at these kids young, then we can have some early successes. In addition, we'll ask the board to explore the creation of what's called crisis stabilization centers that would include a drop-off point for law enforcement and where a person could detox and receive needed care. So instead of winding up in jail, more folks would get the help they need and where they need it. Mayor Faulconer, I'm so glad you're here because you're the one that recently asked the county to step up and lead on this issue. And we are stepping up. We're stepping up all right. And our cities, hospitals, and others must do their part to keep up. Thank you. But making this issue even tougher is that many with mental health challenges also struggle with substance abuse, and about 1 in 3 are homeless. More than ever, meth and opiates are killing San Diegans. It's just in the past 5 years, meth-related deaths in our county they've jumped 75%. In the United States, Americans are now more likely to die of an opioid overdose than in a car crash. And sadly, only 1 in 10 San Diegans get connected to treatment. 1 in 10. Many end up in our emergency rooms, and they don't get the ongoing addiction services they need. So, what are we going to do about it? Well, we recently tripled the amount of money available for intensive residential and outpatient treatment from $54 million a year to over $150 million. So what does that mean? That we'll now be able to help nearly 17,000 people a year. But again, it's not just about more money. We are radically transforming the delivery of care, ending a limited and fragmented structure that we now have. We're now working directly with emergency rooms to connect patients with addiction services. If, and it's a big if, but if we can successfully manage those with mental illness and addiction for the long term and provide housing, we can turn the homeless crisis into a homeless solution. If you haven't heard enough sad facts, here's another sad fact. Roughly 1/3 of our homeless population is made up of seniors. And housing is not the only big challenge facing our oldest residents. 5 years ago, in a State of the County speech, I called on the region to confront an emerging public health crisis, the rise in Alzheimer's disease. In San Diego County, it is the 3rd leading cause of death. The 3rd leading cause of death, right behind heart disease and cancer. In 2014, at my urging, this board launched an initiative called the Alzheimer's Project. We brought together some of our biggest names and top brains to address this crisis. Mayor Kevin Faulconer, philanthropist Darlene Shiley, Dr. Michael Lobatz with Scripps Health, world-class researchers like Bill Mobley at UC San Diego, and others. Our biggest public universities, our largest healthcare system, and nonprofits like Alzheimer's San Diego. We are working side by side, and we are fighting like hell to slow this epidemic and give families help and hope. You see, caring for a mother or father with dementia can take a terrible, terrible mental and physical toll. Today, I'd like to announce a big step forward in our efforts to help ease the stress on caregivers. It's a new county initiative that provides families with matching funds to cover the expense of hiring a caregiver for those who need a break now and then, and they do. The way this works, the county puts up $1 million, each family then split the expense 50-50, so we get more bang for our buck. This $1 million voucher program kicked off this week, so it's available. It's out there for anybody that has the need. Meanwhile, we're getting ready to expand the new Alzheimer's response team in other parts of the region. This East County program brings together first responders along with social workers and others to make sure that those with the disease get the right type of help in an emergency situation and that they don't end up in jail or in an emergency room. The team has only been a few months old, but it is already making a big, big difference. On the research side, Dr. Gerald Chun, who is here today with Sanford Burnham. Gerald recently announced a breakthrough. He actually found that the same drugs used to treat HIV also appear to be effective in combating Alzheimer's. Thank you, Gerald. Collaboration for Cure, which is the research offshoot of the Alzheimer's Project, continues to do groundbreaking work in drug discovery. It draws on experts from UC San Diego, Sanford Burnham, and other institutions. And because of C4C's initial success, San Diego's top brain experts say our region, San Diego, is well positioned to be named a hub for Alzheimer's research by the federal government. That's a big deal. The Alzheimer's Project is stepping up and pushing for change. And change is good. It's healthy. Well, the same goes from where and how we get our energy. And this is not exactly breaking news, but I don't always see eye to eye with San Diego Gas and Electric. We're not going to be vacationing or having any meetings together in Hawaii anytime soon either. Study after study, though, has shown that local consumers pay among the highest utility rates in the nation. It's outrageous. And for years, I've talked about the idea of community choice aggregation, also known as community choice energy. It's simple. It allows communities to band together to buy and sell electricity and opens the door to competition. By the way, county government is already allowed to shop the energy market. We buy the bulk of our energy, electricity, from providers, guess what, other than SDG&E. As no surprise, this saved taxpayers some $3.4 million just last year, and over time we've been doing this, it's saved us $23 million. So if the county can shop for energy, why not the rest of us? Why not ratepayers, school districts, and others? There are now 19 community choice programs in California serving 8 million people. One of them is Solana Beach. Many have been able to offer highly competitive rates compared to the big utilities. And there's 8 local cities that are moving forward to energy choice right here in San Diego. Encinitas, La Mesa, Santee, Chula Vista, Oceanside, Del Mar, Carlsbad, and the city of San Diego. Well, it's time the county of San Diego does the same. So later this month, Supervisor Fletcher and I will ask this board to move forward on community choice energy. We want to look at teaming up with you, Mayor Faulconer, and the other local governments on a joint effort. Everyone deserves freedom of choice, and that's what we're going to try to provide to this region. Yeah, but there's more. We need to press state officials to cut or drop a new fee that kicked in last month. It actually punishes ratepayers for joining community choice programs, and it rewards SDG&E. Clearly, the energy market, unfortunately, is rigged against ratepayers. Now, let me talk about the California Public Utilities Commission, because that body is supposed to watchdog SDG and the other utility monopolies, not kowtow to them, as they have done. The power needs to shift to ratepayers. And I want to take a moment to thank Governor Newsom for starting to clean house at the PUC. He recently appointed a consumer advocate, Genevieve Chairwoman, to the commission, and he will have the chance to appoint all new commissioners during his term. Back to the board. So with this rebooted board that you're seeing up here, we have a great opportunity to dig deep on energy and other big issues. We're able to do this because of our solid finances and fiscal discipline. And we've got cash on hand, and we're ready to spend it where it will do the most good for the most people. And I started this speech by saying there wouldn't be any patting ourselves on the back. Well, I fudged a little. The county has more than $745 million in projects that will be completed or started in the next 2 years. A new nature center in Santa Isabel, a state-of-the-art equestrian center, a library in Lakeside, a campground in the Tijuana River Valley, a Live Well Center in Southeast San Diego, and an enhanced regional emergency communication system, just to name a few. But when all is said and done, public safety must remain our top priority. Above all else, folks in our region expect government to protect their families and their neighborhoods. I talked this morning about several major issues, and if you think about it, nearly all of them are tied to public safety. When we talk about wildfire, housing, homelessness, mental health, drug abuse, and seniors with dementia, all deeply affect our families, our neighborhoods, and our communities. Our sheriff's deputies, our prosecutors, our firefighters, and others are on the front lines of those in crisis. They deal with the consequences. They look for solutions. Many of them risk their lives willingly each and every day to keep us safe. We owe it to them, and we owe it to our residents to take on the big challenges. And we intend to do that this year. This is an all-hands-on-deck moment for San Diego County. And I ask you to join me in the fight. Thank you, and may God bless you.